So, guys, before we start, a few important points. This is purely an educational podcast. So, anything which we discuss in the podcast is should be seen from an educational point of view. And although we avoid discussion on stocks straight away, but again, if so as to substantiate any part of the framework, we use any name that should not be construed as any sort of buy, sell, or hold recommendation. And as and when like you guys have any relevant questions, please feel free to send in a speaker request. Of course, no stock specific questions will be entertained, as you all are aware of the format of our session. So Sumit, let's start. So let me take the moment to introduce our guest for today. So today we have with us Mr. Sumit Poddar, the CIO and founder of Tikona Capital. So Sumit has got over more than 2 decades of expertise in equities, investments, and portfolio management. Additionally, he is also on the advisory board of India's first SME-based AIF Category II fund. He also he's a co-founder of Wealth Tech Swift Money, and he is an All India rank holder CA and successfully completed CFA Level II. He also has held key positions with the renowned institutions of the likes of Aditya Birla Sun Life, Star Union Daichi, and Tata Consultancy Services. So, as a seasoned professional, Sumit has efficiently managed large funds, delivered healthy returns, and possessing extensive experience in analyzing and investing in diverse sectors across market caps and cycles. So, very warm welcome, Sumit. And just in case I missed anything on your introduction, I would like you to suffice that, and we'll begin with how your journey started in the financial markets.
Thanks a lot, Prince, for inviting me to your show with your listeners. Rather, I am heartened as well as very thankful to you to be part of your investing journey or learning journey as such. Right? I have kind of visited your Twitter handle. There is a lot of wisdom nuggets on that particular page. So I'm glad that I got a chance to uh, be part of this learning journey as such, right? So, and first of all, thanks so much for the kind introduction that you have done of this person called Sumit Podar. Thank you so much for the kind introduction, and thanks for making my job easier to share standard disclosures and disclaimers, primarily because of the regulatory environment that we are into. So I'll just reiterate some of those. We are SEBI registered investment advisors as well as SEBI registered research analyst. Anything shared on this call definitely is only for education purpose, and any of the securities are only recommendatory. So not taking much of your time. Yeah. So coming to the interesting question, which is where most of the things start, is how did my really journey start? Of course, Prince has given a humble uh, background about me. Yes, I have been part of multiple organizations as well as played multiple roles, rather it be of research analyst, senior research analyst, fund manager, head of equities in various organizations. My most of my life was rather in Birla Sun Life Insurance, and just like Prince has invited, there are other forums as well, which is what has helped me to share knowledge on, rather it be on Forum Views, which is a BSc magazine, or on Economic Times, as well as ET Now and BQ Prime. So these are the platforms, thankfully, I have been associated with, and similarly have been part of some of the colleges where I'm sharing some of my experiences of my past. So that's pretty much about me, but nonetheless, yeah. So that's what about me as far as my experience and things like that are concerned. Prince.
Yeah, thanks, Sumit. Thanks for the opening note. So, Sumit, like some legacy in the family, or you are the first one to begin in the financial market, and was it due to your interest, or maybe the educational background brought you to this financial market?
Yeah, interesting one. I mean, let me take you back to maybe a period of a year of 1909 2000 as such. So I'm sitting on my desk on my, maybe at that point in time mostly people had desktops, right? So I'm sitting on my desktop actually watching or maybe trading in equity markets, right? And this is around like 2:30 in the afternoon, and suddenly my mother comes and she says, "Are beta, क्या कल सीए की एग्जाम है? एग्जाम एग्जाम पे ध्यान दो, ये ट्रेडिंग और इन्वेस्टिंग तो होते रहेगा करके। सो पूरी जिंदगी पड़ी है उसके लिए, सीए की एग्जाम बार बार नहीं आएगी." सो दिस इज हाउ आई वॉज पैशनेट अबाउट इक्विटीज। कल सीए की एग्जाम है, ऐसा नहीं है कि कोई इंटरमीडिएट एग्जाम है किसी कॉलेज में ऐसा। तो this is where this is how I have been kind of passionate about equity markets. The major passion to equity markets for me actually came from the fact that yeah, we all know, matlab, or rather I hail from a Mawadi community. तो धंधा तो अपने मतलब खून में है एक तरह से, तो it started that way. Of course, none of my family members were so much related to the equity markets or stock markets, but that passion because of association, first with businesses, second with of course the value creation that it brings onto the table, third, I think the other fascination point, or maybe it is also related to maybe being a chartered accountant or so. Not necessarily just chartered accountant, but the interest actually developed being Mawadi, being value creation stuff, and again, I mean, there's a further story to it as well, because like हम तो, as I shared that I have been a मारवाड़ी, तो हम तो ऐसा 10th स्टैंडर्ड हो गया और मतलब अपने गद्दी पे या गल्ले पे बैठो ऐसा हो जाता है। तो that's where I learned lot of businesses, lot of mentors in terms of relatives, and others were there who kind of helped me understand what business is. And then when I joined TCS, I happened to go to US. I was hired by TCS in campuses, and TCS being an I still, I mean, despite being an IT company, and me being chartered accountant was hired, maybe majorly on the finance business techno side. So there I got an opportunity to go to the US, and once I reached there, what I saw was there is a huge under penetration opportunity that is there in India. मतलब वहाँ का इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर देखा, बोला भैया ये क्या है, मतलब ब्रिज ओवर ब्रिज, एटलीस्ट 10 ओवर ब्रिजेस one over the other. And then I saw कि boss, ultimately it is being built by humans, right? I mean, it's just the human progress which is visible in US at that point in time, and same thing is likely to happen in places like India, right? That was another area which influenced me further. And lastly, I mean, books are the one which influenced me a lot. And within TCS itself, actually, I mean, while I worked on a lot of projects like National Stock Exchange, SEBI, uh, lastly, I was in investor relations, institutional investor relations, which is where I got to interact with a lot of investors. And at that point in time, I also kind of read this book, Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham. That influenced me a lot in terms of putting me to investing, and within investing, again, more so being pro India. I mean, the way he has shared how post World War US really kind of thrived and created such a huge wealth. So all these things actually kind of influenced me to come to markets, and within that, of course, being methodical, what I did was, of course, uh, joined a multinational company or a global company like TCS. Within that, again, got an opportunity to be part of the investing journey. Post that, I joined a sell side firm, and so I mean, I made it a methodical step where I joined as an analyst, then from an analyst to a senior analyst, multi-sectoral analyst, uh, fund manager, multi-objective fund manager, multi-market cap fund manager, and then heading the equity team. And of course, last 2 years it has been a journey of my own, where I have founded Tikona Capital, which is where I'm helping my clients to build wealth. So that is how maybe the journey is in terms of starting, understanding, executing, and that's where we are, right?
Great, Sumit. So, Sumit, let me ask you, like, how, what does I mean, the name Tikona, for me, like, it's a unique name, and what was the thought process you devised this name, and after that, I would appreciate, like, you had been in various roles, so how had been your progression in those roles? How easy or how difficult it was so as to like move the ladder?
So interesting. I think two questions. I mean, of course, the first question is very close to my heart. So let me, I mean, the word Tikona itself means three-dimensional, right? I mean, and which is where the logo, if we look at the logo, it's a triangle as such, right? So, well, in the simplest form, Tikona or the triangle is certainty over uncertainty, because circle is what represents the universe, and triangle is what cuts across and says that these are the certain points. Now further a story on, or maybe how this particular thing, the name Tikona itself evolved, or what is the modus operandi of Tikona per se. So during my journey, as I shared that while I was fascinated with stock markets, I read books, I saw US, I saw India opportunity. I worked as equity analyst. Yes, there were multiple challenges. So during that period, basically, what happened is, based on the experience, interaction with people, there was a framework. I'm sure everybody develops a particular framework of doing things, where I realized that if you really want to make big wealth, or maybe if you want to be really successful in what you want to do, we could actually boil down to three areas which can give that particular kind of success. The framework out here is largely, you need to have, one needs to have a knowledge of things that we are kind of doing. Incrementally what is happening is, knowledge part is getting democratized. I mean, earlier, if you really wanted knowledge, you would attend schools and things like that. You would maybe talk to an experienced person, and that's how you gathered knowledge. But in day of Googles, in day of YouTubes, in day of Twitter, knowledge is getting democratized, right? So knowledge is one thing which you need to have. Incrementally, you need to have a network is again a combination to validate your knowledge, add to your knowledge. If you have knowledge, you can actually make a good network of friends, market participants, market learners who are learning with you. So when you have knowledge, those people keep on maybe adding to you, or similarly learning from you. So which is where knowledge keeps on compounding, and which is where you need a network who can validate your idea, who can add to your idea. And lastly, while we may have knowledge, we may have network, ultimately what boils down is an action. Until unless we act on it, we won't be able to really create value, that what we are looking for. So that's where comes the part of conviction, right? So knowledge, network, and conviction, all of them actually keep on feeding to each other, and it keeps on growing to create a snowball effect. So that's where this three dimension thought process of knowledge, network, and conviction is in place, which is what this triangle represents. There's a lot of uncertainty, there is huge universe of things, of opportunities, of biases, of mistakes, of opportunities, but ultimately what matters is creating that certainty, which is where the triangle cuts across, and within that, uh, knowledge, network, and conviction will put across that action or that positive direction, which is where this triangle comes into picture. Right. So, I mean, this is quite close to my heart in terms of really coming out with this logo, this thought process, and kind of betting on this idea of having Tikona in place, having this logo in place, having this uh, overall framework in place. Right. Now, coming to your second question, which is where how difficult it was to maybe uh, traverse this journey as such, right? I mean, if I look back, yes, it seems to be a perfectly, uh, I mean, मतलब एक मोतियों का हार लग रहा है एक तरह से, although we I can't put it as moti because I'm still exploring, still learning as such. Maybe I mean a string of beats as such, right? Ke was you are a CA, you are a Marwadi, you have been to US, uh, mm, equity research, senior equity research, fund manager, and I mean whatever I mentioned in terms of the overall trajectory of my career. Uh, uh, First of all, I should really be thankful to God to give me this opportunity to be part of uh, such a such a fantastic uh, to be in such a fantastic place like India, where I'm born at the right time and I'll be able to really capture the Amrikaal that is the ensuing 25 years period. And within that, I got an opportunity to get associated as a finance guy, being a chartered accountant, right? So I'm sure if we go back maybe in 2000s, many of us would be, I mean, chartered accountants or aspiring chartered accountants, and there used to be so much challenges, right? It was itne, I mean, only 1% of the people passed, only I mean, very low percent. So yes, I mean, first of all, I am really thankful to God to being lucky. Okay, I could study the right things and answer the right things, and I could clear out. Within that, again, I was lucky to be placed in TCS and getting an opportunity to go abroad, as well as getting an opportunity to work on projects like National Stock Exchange, work like very humble people, management of TCS. I worked with Mr. Mahalingam, who was then CFO at that point in time. I worked with Mr. Chandra, especially while meeting with investors. So I got that opportunity to work with best of the minds. So, and then I think maybe I was there at the right point in time and getting the right kind of opportunities. Yes, I mean, over when I joined Birla Sun Life Insurance or Star Union Daichi, yes, I mean this job is not a simple job. I mean, it's a very stressful job. Uh, you have to navigate through it. You have to take bashings from it. You have to enjoy those bashings. Maybe looking back, I really enjoy those bashings. Of course, the days on which your investment thesis is not working, it used to be a very painful day. Similarly, uh, trying to enjoy on something which you haven't worked much was also enjoyable. But nonetheless, this is part of the journey, which is what had to be taken up, right? So quite thankful to God to really give me this opportunity. Similarly, quite thankful to the mentors um, whom I could cross roads with during my, I mean, during my tenure at each of these organizations. Maybe anything specific that you have related to this thing, maybe Prince, if you have anything specific that you want to understand, or if I can share, I'll be happy to share on that.
Great, Sumit. So, Sumit, let's discuss more about the thought process or the framework which you use for investing, starting from say maybe idea generation, so as to there are so many ways through which we get ideas these days. So, would like to hear on that, and once you identify the ideas, how the process goes on due diligence part, and following that, I mean, normally it happens like you get idea, you watch that, you keep that as a part of your watch list, right? And you do further research on that
Correct,
company.
correct.
So the mostly from idea generation to watch list and to finally ending up that company being part of your portfolio, or maybe the money you are managing for the other people. So how the whole process goes, and what goes after once you are invested.
Sure, sure. Again, a very interesting kind of a question, and which is what I think most of learners, as learners, we do as such, right? So, see, I mean, first of all, we need to be clear कि boss ये मैं क्यों कर रहा हूँ, ठीक है? मैं ट्रेडिंग कर रहा हूँ, इन्वेस्टिंग कर रहा हूँ, या पोर्टफोलियो मैनेजमेंट कर रहा हूँ, एंड थिंग्स लाइक दैट, राइट? सो नाउ कमिंग टू a professional fund manager. So if you are investing for yourself, maybe the thought process that is involved could be a bit different, should be a bit different, unlike in case of a professional fund manager. Again, I would rather say I would bring into the fact that let's say when I was part of institutional fund management, what used to happen there is हम लोगों को leeway tha of buying and selling, or maybe changing our views quite frequently based on the opportunities that are available. So unlike those large institutions, this opportunity is not available when we are managing private money, or for that matter if someone is managing their own money, because there is a tax angle to it, right? So first, that should be clear. I'll just park that thought per se. Now coming to how the idea generation takes place, let me further kind of put this perspective in what used to happen earlier and what is happening now. While the broader thought process remains the same, but the way of ideating, the way of really finding those stocks has literally changed over the period of time. So, in terms of our own stock selection framework, and within that, once the stock is selected, maybe allocation framework. So, in terms of stock selection, again, three pronged approach, where we look at the business, we look at the management, and the valuations, right? Within businesses, what we look at is how large the addressable market is, what are the growth drivers, what are the value migration drivers. Now, I mean, you would say कि यार ये तो सभी लोग देख रहे हैं करके, right? But the whole idea is to understand that, right? So maybe in past, I mean, banks definitely are a large addressable market, right? Growth drivers are in place. Whether value migration is taking place from PSUs to banks or not is what we have to see. Again, let me first take the overall framework, and then how it used to be in past versus how it is now, or maybe going forward, is what I'll take it through. So within business, of course, the size of opportunity, the the growth drivers, the whether whether, I mean, what is the cycle of that particular business in terms of their volume growth cycle, pricing growth cycle, profitability cycle, maybe if it is having any tax benefits, taxation cycle, in terms of their working capital cycle. All these things are given kind of a due uh, consideration. Similarly, whether that growth that is there is being financed appropriately, what kind of ROCs, ROEs, as well as cash flow from operations it is generating. So that's as far as business and numbers are concerned. Then we come and look at the management, how good the management is, how they have really built their business over a past period of time. See, many times क्या होता है कि business में सब में दम होता है, right? IT business, I mean, look at the IT business over last 20-year period, right? I myself was in TCS in 2001, and at that point in time it was just in a building phase, right? And there were so many companies, they were building IT business. Now look at the top 5 companies where they are, and look at many other companies also started during that period of time. uh, where they have landed. So ultimately, what is the differentiator? Despite having the opportunity, not all the managements will be able to really capture those opportunity, and which is where we have to see how management thinks, how management really implements their strategy in terms of the business opportunity that is available, how they behave when things go wrong. I'll just give you an example. During 2008 9, even at that point in time, with my buy side analyst, I used to meet the TCS management. So I asked Chandra, boss, this is a very difficult period of time, what exactly are you doing? And at that point in time, what was happening is most of the large IT companies, like, I mean, MNC companies as well as competitors of this company, what they were doing is they were trying to protect their profitability and then going to clients and saying, "Ki boss, you had a contract, you cannot break this contract, you cannot reduce prices, you cannot do this, you cannot do that." But what was Chandra's reply was, "Boss, these are difficult times. We have to be close to the customer and look how we can really solve the problems of our customers." Right, so that is the difference that comes out with the management, right? Okay, similarly look at COVID times, right? I mean, the managements who were great managements, saw this particular problem, they supported their maybe employees, they supported their supply chains, and they took a hit if required because they saw the long term benefits of supporting, or maybe long term benefits of staying with the overall ecosystem in place, right? So these are the things that really differentiate a management in terms of identifying opportunities, behaving in difficult point in times, having reasonable skin in the game, having very low pledge, and then consistency of track record, and over delivering versus being conservative. And lastly, valuations, which are again a very important part, because we may like the business, we may like the management, but you can't pay uh, any valuation, right? So valuations again, many a times, or rather when we start, all of us, I mean, we again, there is always a transition or evolution of an investor, of an analyst, of a fund manager, of an advisor, or whichever way we want to call it. Uh, we all go through this evolution. We start with trading. Once we start, maybe understand a bit of fundamental analysis, we generally bog down to maybe ग्रोथ क्या है करके, वो समझ में आ रहा है तो ऐसा लगता है समझ में आ गया करके, बाद में पता चलता है कि भैया टॉप लाइन ग्रोथ तो है, बॉटम लाइन ग्रोथ है कि नहीं है, वो समझ में आने लग जाता है तो पता चलता है भैया आप आर ओ देखो। अरे वो समझ में आ जाता है तो बोलता है भैया कैश फ्लो देखो करके। अरे वो समझ में आ जाता है तो बोले भैया वैल्यूएशन देखो। बोले पी समझ में आ गया, बोले भाई नहीं, किसी का पी 70 है तो भी सस्ता है, किसी का पी 10 है तो भी महंगा है, ऐसा क्यों है? सो आई मीन ओवर अ पीरियड ऑफ टाइम यू कीप ऑन काइंड ऑफ अपग्रेडिंग, इवॉल्विंग एंड थिंग्स लाइक दैट, and within that you realize that valuation is function of relative to market, relative to industry, relative to the ROCs that it is kind of delivering, relative to the management quality that is there, relative to the longevity of a particular business that is there. So we put all those perspective in place to really kind of select a particular stock or stocks, set of stocks. So broad framework of identifying this. Incrementally what is also happening is, let's say यही चीज मुझे अगर let's say 10 साल पहले जब मैं देखता था, we used to take a lot of efforts to कट डाउन ऑन ईच ऑफ दीज पैरामीटर्स। भैया धंधा क्या है, तो भैया कोई मतलब कोई इंडस्ट्री मैगजीन निकालो, उसमें किसी का रिपोर्ट होगा, वो उसका ग्रोथ रेट देखेंगे, उसके बाद अपना मॉडल बनाएंगे एंड थिंग लाइक दैट। मैनेजमेंट का देखना है तो यार वो कोई मैगजीन में उसका इंटरव्यू आया होगा वो पढ़ेंगे, या खुद मिलके आएंगे, नेटवर्क से चेक करेंगे, वैल्यूएशंस अगेन अपना खुद का सीरीज बनाओ एंड थिंग्स लाइक दैट। Things have dramatically changed. All these things if you are a smart user of technology, you can automate many of these things for yourself, right? We spoke about what are the matrices that are required to assess parameters. Many a times it may seem as if यार ये तो numbers हुए करके, but we have to attach maybe qualitative impact to those numbers, and which is what has started getting kind of simpler, right? So I would say with new age we have to also get upgraded on the use of technology, and I'm sure many of you guys are really using that. So once we kind of select, again the real crux comes into, okay, how do we really construct a portfolio. Maybe so just to give you, as I mentioned, that based on these qualitative factors we identify or select stocks and make a particular universe or a watch list, and then जहां जहां हमको कहीं भी concerns लगता है उसमें मैन्युअली क्या बोलते हैं आप इंटरवेन करके एटलीस्ट वो बाहर कर देते हैं. सो लेट्स से इफ द universe is 5,000, with these filter itself we will come down to a list of maybe less than 500 companies, right? Or even less for that matter, right? So and if we find that there are too many opportunities, we kind of tighten many of the factors that we are looking at. Valuations अगर x देख रहे थे तो x minus 10%, x minus 20% करके देखा क्या हो रहा है करके. So we try to come out with a range of 50 to 100 companies, and within that then further we try to kind of look at which are the high conviction areas by communicating, as I mentioned, ये तो knowledge वाला part है. Then network with people, try to gain further knowledge, and then try to develop a particular conviction around it, because once we develop a particular conviction we will be able to uh, it, have a better allocation on each of these stocks. So coming to the portfolio construction part itself, yes, we need to see where the conviction are highest, what is the kind of risk reward that is in place, and based on that we try to devise a particular portfolio. Within that again we try to see what are the tout. I mean, while this could be, some of it could be bottom up approach and some of it could be top down approach as such, right? So top down may whether this sector is growing at a rate faster rate or not, whether the companies that are emerging are good or not good in terms of generating reasonable return above their cost of capital or not. And then based on that we try to have conviction and conviction as well as risk reward, and then build up our portfolio per se, right? So maybe, yeah, I mean,
So,
that's how
Sumit,
is the whole process.
right, right. Fairly well explained, Sumit bhai. So basically, like, if I ask about the number of stocks, although there is no hard one number, but again, what do you think? What is an ideal number, and how you go about it? And on the top of that, any percentage you set for individual companies that you won't go beyond 10% or 8% kind of thing.
Sure. So let me just, I mean, is my voice quite audible? I mean, audible and clear? By,
Yes,
I mean,
yes,
are you
yes, yes.
facing any issues?
No problem on my end, Sumit.
Okay, okay, okay. So, I mean, let me know if is there is any breakage from my side or anything like that. I'll maybe repeat the things, or if required, change my location per se.
No,
Yeah.
it's perfectly fine. You can continue, Sumit. Yeah.
Perfect, perfect. Yeah. So coming to the number of stocks, yes, I mean this this topic is always a intriguing point. So when I was a professional fund manager in a institutional fund, we used to hold 40-50 stocks, right? That was also because of the fact that the fund sizes were large. We had to ensure whether liquidity is in place or not, and likewise many other factors of risk management. Maybe there we had to ensure that if the regulatory limits are x, we are having some leeway to ensure we are not really breaching any of the limits. So out there, yes, 40 to 50 stocks is what we used to hold. But now coming to when it is like advising your private clients, and especially when there is a tax impact, as well as what we want to do is create wealth for long term as such. Within that, there is no everyday NAV pressure or business pressure, which is what most of the institutional fund managers have. Coming to the point out here in terms of portfolio construction of number of stocks, what we have really realized is, yes, first and foremost, any stock which we don't have a conviction, we should exit, or maybe we should really not count it. Right now, coming to the point that conviction hai, to kitna hai, right? Now, we try to see what kind of risks and reward it offers at each and every point of time. कि भैया 1% होगा तो कितना होगा, 2 होगा तो कितना होगा, 5 होगा तो कितना होगा, 10 होगा तो कितना होगा, या 15 होगा तो कितना होगा. So what we realized is, यार 1 और 2 पे तो एनीवे आपने इतना सब काम किया, 1 और 2 पे वो डबल भी हो जाएगा, तो आपके पोर्टफोलियो में कुछ फर्क ही नहीं पड़ेगा. राइट. सिमिलरली, इफ यू आर टू हाई, राइट, भले ही कन्विक्शन है, one tends to take a step where either you book too early, or you book, or maybe you are too glued on to the story to ensure that your fund performance comes into picture. So a sweet spot is somewhere between 3 to maybe 10-12% as such. And if we kind of reverse calculate, ideally the stock could be somewhere around 10 to 25 stocks. Again, within that 25 में तो काफी कुछ dilute हो जाता है. 25 number of stocks में, the returns really get diluted, primarily because we don't get the most out of what we can achieve by identifying stocks in a manner that we discussed, right? So the sweet spot we kind of devised based on the thoughts that we have put is somewhere around 10 to 15 stocks is a good sweet spot, primarily to ensure that we gain the most out of our conviction ideas, and similarly to have our emotional intelligence in place to take right decision at right point in time. Because portfolio structure is not just about risk and reward, it is also about whether with that kind of portfolio structure you would behave rationally going forward or not. So let me, take an example that I faced during 2014 on my personal portfolio. I had made like a handsome return on my portfolio, and it was quite substantial in relation to what I was earning at that point in time. Right. So the decision that I was kind of pondering over is, यार यहाँ से upside कितना है और downside कितना है. ठीक है. The question that I put to myself was, यार यहाँ से समझो 10% का अपसाइड है और 20% का डाउन साइड है. मैंने दोनों नंबर डाल के देखा कि भैया अगर ऐसा होगा तो मेरी लाइफ में कितना डिफरेंस होगा, अगर वैसा होगा तो मेरे लाइफ में कितना डिफरेंस होगा. So thankfully, my decision kind of turned out to be correct. To ensure that my emotional balance is there, I actually sold my personal stocks, and post elections, of course, that the stocks that I was in actually corrected quite a lot, right? So portfolio construction or maybe the number of stocks that one needs to have is a function of conviction, risk reward, and the appropriate number which can keep you balanced, right? Because I've seen many clients having 50, 60, 100 stocks and saying कि यार पैसा ही नहीं बनता है करके, घूम फिर के मैं वहां का वहीं हूँ. तो बोले सर वैसा ही होगा ना सर, because the leaking bucket is maybe many small stocks. Many of them would have doubled, but many of them are zero as well, right? Same way, there could be some stock which has actually created huge sums. They are not really ready to sell those stocks, right? चलो आपको कंटिन्यू भी करना है अगर, तो ensure that you are able to allocate some money to other stocks and have a broader portfolio of maybe 10 to 15, or if not 10 to 15, then at least 20 stocks as such. So our small case is portfolio of about 15 stocks, which again we try to ensure that we stay somewhere around 12 to 15%, and which has really given kind of a handsome outperformance to NSE 500 over, I mean, since the inception, as well as, I mean, our clients are quite happy on the performance of the portfolio based on what we have kind of made, as well as in terms of number of stocks as well. So I think malab, it's a balance that we have to play within conviction, risk reward, and the comfortability to have our emotional balance in place.
So Sumit, like you talked about conviction. So how we can rate on our conviction? So I mean, what's the criteria? What do you call a high conviction, low conviction, or maybe an middle level conviction, wherein basis that you have allocation strategy?
So see, again, conviction is the like I shared with you, triangle is what we look at, right? So conviction stays right at the top out there, right? So you can't have conviction unless you have gone through the steps of knowledge and network, right? So in order to have a good conviction, again, we should have worked across to have our framework in place by then, right? I'm just taking you a bit back in terms of what are the groundwork that we need to do to ensure that our conviction as a skill is in place, right? So because what happens is, what people have, or maybe unknowingly we have attached conviction to, यार 2x बनाया, 4x बनाया, 100x बनाया, उसको हम conviction पे attach कर देते हैं, या percentage return बनाया, उसको हम conviction पे attach कर देते हैं, right? Or for that matter, अभी तक hold किया, let's say there are many, I know many people who invested in Astral at very low levels, and they have made killing in it, and they are still holding it, right? So one can say, अरे ये, this is what conviction is, right? Now see, over a period of time in our life, we may find only couple of ideas which are going to give us this 150, 200 bagger, which we are continuing to hold and has made wealth for us. But the journey to getting that two, three, four stocks, or maybe even one stock, is the journey of maybe 1,000 stocks, 2,000 stocks, where we would have made a investment or made a investment call or thesis, and then we would have either failed or dropped it midway as such. So the point that I'm trying to say is, conviction as a skill, if we want to develop, we have to go through thousands of stocks, not just by researching, but as a complete process of knowledge, network, and conviction and action, right? So that's where we will kind of reach those 2, 3, 4, 5 stocks which are going to change our life. Now, coming to the skill of conviction, we need to have right kind of investment philosophy or the framework in place, right? मैं कैसे टाइप का इन्वेस्टर हूँ, और मुझे क्या चीज की टाइप की इन्वेस्टिंग सूट करती है. Like I mentioned, for me, I had to see कि boss, how can I really balance my thoughts, even if it goes up or goes down, and let me take an action based on that. It is not necessary everyone would have that kind of thought process. If that person feels कि बॉस मुझे लास्ट पेनी तक भी लेना है और मुझे बहुत पेन होता है, then he or she has to devise the investment philosophy in that manner, right? Secondly, one needs to be really clear of long term vision, right? Like we are going to discuss about what the Amrikaal is for the next 25 years. Only when we are clear about that, we will be able to act appropriately, right? So people who really made money or killing during COVID times are the one who had long term vision about India, right? Because many people sold, and that is why the market was down, right? And it's only because those guys, the people who sold, had a very narrow and short term vision of saying कि यार इंडिया तो बर्बाद हो गया, या मे बी वर्ल्ड बर्बाद हो गया, राइट? एंड थर्डली, इमोशनल डिसिप्लिन, राइट? सो ये तीनों चीज का मिश्रण से कन्विक्शन आएगा. नाउ अगेन कमिंग टू योर पॉइंट कि बहुत स्टॉक लेवल पे कैसे कन्विक्शन आएगा, राइट. सो एक ये हो गई कन्विक्शन एज अ स्किल हमको डेवलप करना है, जहां हमारा फ्रेमवर्क होना चाहिए, हमारे को लॉन्ग टर्म क्लैरिटी होनी चाहिए, हमारा इमोशनल डिसिप्लिन कैसे प्रोटेक्ट हो और इमोशनल डिसिप्लिन को एनहेंस करने के लिए हम क्या कर रहे हैं वो चीज इन प्लेस होनी चाहिए कि भैया हाँ, मतलब आई डोंट टॉक टू everyone and anyone over a period of time. I to try to filter people, same way I try to filter the the Twitter handles that I'm following. I'm definitely following accidental investor because I'm getting a lot of wisdom out here, but I'm not following someone who is just giving me tips like anything. Why do I waste time on it, right? So that emotional discipline has to be there. Same way, every idea I should not be really reacting or acting as such. So that emotional discipline has to be kind of in place. Now, coming to the point that you are saying कि was high conviction, low conviction, mid conviction. Again, we have to first यार अपना काम अपने को खुद करना पड़ता है. जितने भी लोगों से कुछ भी आइडियाज आया है हमको हमारे फ्रेमवर्क में डाल के देखना होता है. बिकॉज व्हाट विल हैपन, टू थिंग्स विल हैपन if we take a borrowed conviction. First, we will enter at the wrong time if the market is on upside. ठीक है. Second, what will happen is we will exit at the wrong time. So that's what happens in borrowed conviction. कि बॉस आप ले तो किसी के बोलने पे लोगे, बट बेच आप क्या बोलते हैं उसके बोलने पे नहीं कर पाओगे, या कुछ गलत टाइम पे आप बटन दबाओगे. वाई? बिकॉज वो नीचे गया तो वो बंदे ने आपको दिया था स्टॉक, और अब आप क्या करो. और मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम्स ऐसा ही होता है, जब नीचे होता है तो सामने वाला कभी फोन नहीं उठाता है, या अगर उठाता है तो भी बोलता है भाई रखो रखो करके. ठीक है. सेकेंडली, जब ऊपर जा रहा होता है तो आपको तो लगता है यार अच्छा है. सामने वाला कभी कभी फोन भी करता है भाई बेच दे, लेकिन बोलते हैं यार तूने लास्ट टाइम जब बोला था तब तो यार और ऊपर गया था, तो लेट मी होल्ड इट. सो व्हाट हैपेंस इज वी हैव टू डू आवर ओन वर्क इन टर्म्स ऑफ डूइंग द राइट रिसर्च, आइडेंटिफाइंग कि बहुत अपॉर्चुनिटी कितनी बड़ी है, मैनेजमेंट कैसा है, मैनेजमेंट आई मीन करेक्टली सोचता है या नहीं सोचता है. थर्डली, वैल्यूएशंस ऐसे तो नहीं है ना कि बहुत हाई है करके. एंड देन ऑफ कोर्स ये तो अपना ग्राउंड वर्क कर दिया जो सिर्फ नॉलेज वाली पार्ट है. देन वी हैव टू एंश्योर दैट कि हमने नेटवर्क में चेक किया है, हम हमारे इधर मे बी स्कटलबट जो हम करते हैं वो कर रहे हैं इन टर्म्स ऑफ कंपटीशन, इन टर्म्स ऑफ इफ इट इज बीइंग सोल्ड इन इंडिया, मे बी हैव अ फील ऑफ प्रोडक्ट. If it is kind of a B2B product, talk to dealers. If it is maybe a service, talk to the customers. You will get the feel. मतलब अगर बैंकिंग कस्टमर है, if you talk to HDFC बैंक कस्टमर versus an ICICI बैंक कस्टमर, you will get the right answer, boss. I'm sure you will. And I'm sure the example that I'm giving you, you can go back and maybe vouch for it as well. राइट. सो सेम वे, सो आपने अपनी रिसर्च करी, सेम वे आपने जो नॉलेज है वो उनके साथ शेयर करी, वो 4 इनपुट देंगे. नाउ विद इन दैट हाई, मिड एंड लो. सो जहां भी अपने लो कन्विक्शन है, वर्क मोर. If you are still comfortable, or if the upsides are kind of, let's say if your target return is generally, let's say, doubling money in 3 years, जस्ट अ रैंडम एग्जांपल दैट आई एम गिविंग. सो मतलब आपका थ्रेशोल्ड है 25%. अब लो कन्विक्शन में भी आपको दिख रहा है 50% है, तो मे बी व्हाट यू कैन डू इज टेक अ स्मॉल पोजीशन आउट देयर, राइट, एंड देन कीप ऑन वर्किंग फर्दर इन अ अप्रोप्रिएट मैनर. एंड अगेन आई एम सेइंग लो कन्विक्शन वाले पॉइंट तक भी आप जब भी पहुंचे हो जब आपने रिसर्च कर लिया और अपने नेटवर्क से चेक कर लिया एक तरह से. ठीक है. सेकेंड, मीडियम कन्विक्शन है, तो इसमें क्या करिए कि बॉस हैव लाइक लेट्स से लो कन्विक्शन को आपने समझो 1% पोजीशन से चालू करिए. दीज आर रैंडम एग्जांपल्स. अगेन थोड़ा आपके खुद के कंफर्ट के हिसाब से आपको ये नंबर्स करने पड़ेंगे, बट ब्रॉडली द थॉट प्रोसेस दैट वी फॉलो इज दिस. मीडियम कन्विक्शन है तो मे बी विल स्टार्ट विद 2% एज सच, एंड देन वहां पे हम उसके और पैरामीटर्स जो है वो चेक करेंगे. भैया रिजल्ट्स बराबर दे रहा है कि नहीं दे रहा है, एनुअल रिपोर्ट में और क्या दे रहा है एक तरह से. एंड देन इफ यू फाइंड एनीथिंग लाइक विच कम्स अप विच एड्स टू आवर कन्विक्शन, ऐड करो. जैसे कोई मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कंपनी है, उसने पीएलआई के लिए अप्लाई किया हुआ है, अच्छी कंपनी है, तो अब जैसे ही पीएलआई का कुछ आया तो और ऐड कर लो. दिस इज जस्ट अ रैंडम एग्जांपल. सेम वे इफ दैट कंपनी इज वर्किंग ऑन पार्टनरशिप्स with some clients, and the moment those partnership का announcements आता है, it kind of adds on to your or reiterates your thesis, right? And now coming to the high conviction, I mean, they are the most rewarding as well as most effort sucking as well, right? So high conviction ideas may definitely we can start with a high exposure, but at the same time, I mean, we have to apply our tracking things out there, and but within that, maybe at least I'll share what I do is जो भी मेरे क्लोज नेटवर्क वाले होते हैं जिनसे मैं बहुत क्लोज हूँ, जो जिनसे मैं आई कीप ऑन काइंड ऑफ टॉकिंग, आई शेयर विद देम कि बॉस ये मेरा काफी हाई कन्विक्शन आइडिया है, and of course whenever something really adverse comes they really help me, and similarly if something good comes they help me as such. And no doubt, I mean, we have to be, I mean, we being coming from an institutional background, we stay in touch with management as well. And although managements would share what is already being shared with everyone, it's just the hygiene factor that is in place, because these days जो भी कॉन कॉल पे शेयर किया है वही इंक्रीमेंटल शेयर होता है एक तरह से, नथिंग एडिशनल इज बीइंग शेयर्ड. And yes, stay in touch with companies, I mean, further track those ideas. And in terms of allocation, this is how we go. I mean, we start low in low conviction, mid conviction, high conviction ka ye, and all of them have to be tracked to take further action, right? uh, so that's pretty much how we do it. Within that, if you have any specific question, maybe we can further discuss on that.
That really helped, Sumit. So, Sumit, next question, which our audience are more interested in, like obviously the current market outlook, and in
Mhm.
such market conditions, how you place yourself, and which are, I mean, after that we'll come to the sectors specific questions, in the sense which sectors are looking good from here, and how we can go about investing in those sectors without naming the
So,
companies, of course.
sure, sure. So, Prince, let me take this as an opportunity. I mean, the fact that we all have gathered is largely to understand what is the long term opportunity that is in place. Nonetheless, if we look at the near term opportunity, uh, maybe if we look at very I mean, I think how we are looking at it is currently is we have divided actually looking at markets in maybe four areas, right? One is of course the large cap, which has really not performed well if we look at last 1 year, while they are uh, the one who hold the fort as far as the market as well as your portfolio is concerned many a times. Mid caps, uh, then small caps, and then micro caps, right? And within that, see, we are seeing opportunities in maybe mid cap to micro cap space, no doubt. But these are very specific opportunities. They have done well, and maybe because they have done well, there is this feeling that they are maybe overvalued and maybe ripe for correction, right? So that view comes as a hindsight view, primarily because we all have this worry of heights per se. Once we reach at the top or maybe at a higher levels, we have this worry of fall, right? So that's what is happening with small cap and maybe micro caps per se. But there continues to be opportunity because they continue to grow at a very healthy rates, maybe 30, 40, 50% depending on specific opportunities per se. And if we look at maybe large caps and mid caps, yes, large caps specifically have come into value zone, no doubt, because uh, despite the growth in some of the pockets, I mean, taking the example of banking, there is a quite a good amount of valuation gap to what the growth that they are seeing. Yes, there is an amount of risk management that is taking place on the business, but we still feel that there is upsides as far as banking is concerned. Autos have run up, but autos is going through a huge transition, and again, coming to the long term thesis that is in place, I think autos as a sector is likely to do well for, uh, uh, I mean, good upcoming period as such. So the revolution, or maybe the evolution or transformation that happened in communication space is now kind of getting transferred to the transportation space, and which is where the autos come into picture. While one can always say, or maybe there are very limited opportunities to capture this kind of transformation that is taking, but there are indirect opportunities, maybe through ancillaries, or maybe dealership models, right? In terms of broader market, yes, the numbers, if you look at the result season, have not been that great, but at the same time not disappointing. Maybe the global players got impacted much more than local players. There was definitely a slower growth, primarily because of even the festive season shifting. So that's on the broader side. Maybe ek do quarter ka chakkar hai, and I think we will come back. Uh, the broader theme that we need to be kind of aware is the Amritkal period that we are going to get into, or we have already started into, but उसका एक differentiation चालू हो जाएगा. So let me take this opportunity to really share this our thesis to explain why we think that this is one of the greatest period of wealth creation for the next 25 years that we are going into. So let me just give some background, right? uh, why India is where it is as such, right? So let me go back further to like last 20-25 years, right? uh, हम जब भी तेजी में आते हैं, हमको मतलब कुछ ना कुछ ये फटका पड़ा है एक तरह से, right? And which is why we are fearful many a times, right? And which is why this skepticness that is there inside us. So I have kind of worked across the cycle, like I shared कि बस 99 2000 में भी CA की एग्जाम देने जा रहा हूँ, तो भी I was like kind of trading. So even that at that point of time, I have seen, or I was novice at that point in time, although I never understood what is happening except for the prices going up and down, and it was all trading. But within that, um, I have seen cycles of maybe systemic issues led by specific large investors. I mean, which people named it as scams, but they were more the systemic arbitrage opportunities that those guys played, or for that matter, the technological boom and bust that happened during 2000, or for that matter 2008 or 2012, where we had twin deficits. I mean, post Modi era, I mean, post, not Modi era, I mean to say post election era, where in 2014 we were at highs and we got corrected. And same way, 2018, where there was a huge hype in small cap, mid cap, and then COVID, of course. So during every cycles, I mean, there are these bad memories of maybe either scams or let's say global economy falling down, because even during 2008 there were these supportive narratives that India को कुछ नहीं होगा करके, and but we still got impacted. Similarly, we saw very good growth during 11-12, but that again kind of faltered out, primarily because the free money that was being kind of given post GFC actually led to a very high inflation and high NPAs post that, right? 2014 again, election mania was there, and many of the stocks went up, and ultimate to correct down, and every kind of cycle there we have seen exuberance and then kind of a fallout, especially while it has been in coordination with global cycles, but within that there is some or a very high skepticism that is at the back of our minds, and this may not necessarily be in minds of very young investors who are just at 2025, but who are at 35, 40, 45 or so. All of them, I mean, have been seeded with this thought process कि यार इंडिया में ना हो पाएगा करके. But post COVID, I'm sure we all are really experiencing, or rather, even during COVID, most of us were skeptical that boss, ये COVID तो जो इंडिया में है यहाँ पे कि at least a substantial portion of the population could get impacted or wiped out because we are not disciplined, right? And we have seen कि बॉस वैसा हुआ ही नहीं. Rather, we were one of the most disciplined countries which have really beaten down or defeated COVID crisis as such, right? Similarly, I mean, I remember many people talking about their in 2020 itself, many people talking about their Pfizer has come to India. I mean, ideally we should have bought from them, but and they criticized the government at that point in time. But look at it. I mean, those adversities actually have made us much stronger. We have developed our own vaccine, and post COVID, rather, India has now become an anti-fragile country, right? So pre-COVID, post-COVID, just like we talk about pre-GFC and post-GFC, I think history will be written in this Amrikaal about pre-COVID India and post-COVID India. So post-COVID India is a completely anti-fragile India, where every adversity is being taken as an opportunity. First, definitely this, which is the health crisis. Rather, Covaxin is one of the most successful vaccines across the world and at that this particular scale, which is what we have even distributed to other countries. First thing. Second thing, India's stature as a country has, I mean, we all are experiencing it, right? Every now and then we get to know that India is in top 3, top 5, in top or things like that. We are kind of gaining our rankings each and every day, right? We have become the topmost or the top population country as far as this world is concerned. We are in top 5 GDPs of the world. Maybe we will be in top 3 by 2027, replacing Japan. We will be hitting 29 trillion or 30 trillion by end of this Amrit Kal by around 2047. And again, we will be like fastest growing economy per se. Third, take the case of geopolitical issues. Now, again, India as a country should have got impacted the most. Why? Because we import 80% of our crude. And in a high energy environment, rather, we should have got impacted the most. And we have converted it in an opportunity. So, post COVID, literally, India has become an anti fragile country. All the initiatives that were taken maybe near the COVID have rather accelerated. Take the case of UPI, take the case of GST, take the case of formalization. All these factors have really accelerated, right? Now, the question that you might ask or everyone has is, यार ये सब तो हो गया ना यार, ये तो सबको पता है करके, right? कि ये हो गया. No, boss. This is just the beginning. We have to look at the second level of impact of many of the things. Take the case of UPI. While we may say 76% of the economy is using or is digital per se, but what are the second level impact? Yeah, every rupee is actually going to the banking system. Even now, what is happening is it was only one side of the transaction is going to the bank. What happens when both the sides of the transaction go into bank? That is another big thing, right? Further, I mean, I was just reading the book that was gifted by, or this book, Rebooting India, written by Nandan Nilankani. He has fantastically mentioned how we can really reboot the billion Indians. Right? It severely mentions everything about Aadhaar, how Jandan has to be in place, how all these DBTs have to be in place, all this eKYC, account aggregator, all these things are already being mentioned as a suggestion to the government. There are 10 suggestions, and if I'm reading this book, within that, five have almost kind of been done, and further five are likely to come. Uh, I'm sure each one of us want to know about it, right? So further five are strengthening democracy with technology. I mean, of course, we will see in maybe in upcoming elections or post that technology being used for elections. We are already using some part of it, but incrementally further usage of it, healthy India as such, and power sector reforms are continuously going on. And last but not the least, the bureaucracy as well as the judicial part has to be kind of revamped. So these all are coming up. We are going to see huge transformation as far as India is concerned, right? So let me further kind of dwell upon what exactly is Amrit Kal and how this period is being talked about. So if we go back to the definition of Amrit Kal, uh, Prince, maybe can you add to it, or are you aware what exactly is Amrit Kal?
Sumit, as you explained all the aspects about it, going forward, by the time we complete 100 years of our independence, so what all, where we would be placed in the world, and what all will contribute. We have the largest population, and that too in the age group, which will surely be an asset for the country, right? And the world, as far as the value chain is concerned, the world is looking at India from the sustainability point of view. So all the things are converging, and we are you can say at the cusp of a very very huge wealth building and nation building, you can say.
Sure, sure, sure. So, I mean, the government, or maybe the current government, has literally come out with a fantastic terminology to define this 25-year period of nation building. So, let me just kind of share with you what exactly is the definition, or maybe what does really Amrit Kal stand for. So let me just define it, or maybe let me just reshare with you what exactly it means, or how it has been defined, or what does it really mean. So Amrit Kal actually is a Vedic astrology term. Vedic astrology term signifying what? Vedic astrology term signifying the perfect time to start. Perfect time to start a new venture. So I think they have beautifully really selected this term, which signifies that this is perfect time to start a new venture, and which is where I mentioned, or maybe shared with you, that a pre-COVID India and a post-COVID India is totally different India, right? And this really coincides with this particular term Amrit Kal, where a perfect time to start a new venture as such, right? Again, it further adds that it is a time for bigger success that can be achieved with proper efforts, right? So they have beautifully picked this term, beautifully defined this term. I think it goes extremely well to understand, to practice, to imbibe this Amrit Kal in each and every person of India, right? And further, they have kind of put extreme emphasis on this fact that yes, this is going to be a digital economy, fintech enabled evolution, where energy transition and climate actions are going to be extremely important. We are seeing a lot of it is happening, and we are just at the start of this particular factor, right? There is a virtuous cycle of private investment that is taking place, and further, government wants to kind of support uh, crowding in of this particular private investment. And similarly, they want sabka saath, sabka vikas, right? So as a combination, if we look at Amrit Kal is a fantastic period for next 25 years of for this particular country, right? Now coming back to maybe, I mean, uh, uh, Prince, I mean, if somebody wants to, or maybe some guys wants to kind of participate, or what is the skepticism that comes on word Amritkal or this particular period? If is there a way to really get one word from the participants or something like that?
Sumit, there were few requests, but I don't know, maybe due to Twitter glitch or what. Sure, but our audience can share their views or comments around it.
Maybe one or two guys. I mean, I just want a reply on Amrit Kal as a skepticism, because that's where then I want to further share my thoughts on how or what exactly are the learnings from other countries, or if we go to the past, how have really countries thrived when there is a dramatic change in that particular economy. So uh, uh,
We got VD as a speaker. So, VD, anything to say on your part? You can unmute and ask.
Hello, am I audible?
yeah,
Yes.
Hello, sir. So I read that the FIIs are on the lowest holding as of now. I was reading on the Twitter that in the 15 years they were actually selling, and now they are currently holding the least amount. So all the money coming from your domestic investors. So why are foreign investors not bullish on India, or maybe not uh, in this time? So is this something we should look out for, or this is a better opportunity for us that they will come and when they'll buy in the future? So something like that.
sure, definitely. I mean, of course, this is a question that is again close to my heart, but more so, my, I mean, if do you have, are you having any skepticism about this Amrit Kal period?
So, Sumit, let me, say something on it. Basically, there are two sides to it. For sure, everybody who is a keen participant in market and understand the nuances of business, they know the on-ground developments and they are very positive and long on India. But on the second aspect, the people believe that only narratives won't do. There are many places, or maybe be it technology or be it other areas wherein we are not up to that level, wherein we can proudly say that we can beat China or the, for that matter, the US, right? So there are narratives also, there are on ground developments also. So somewhere in between, people are skeptical in the sense like, this is more on the narrative side, or actually that's happening. So that is broadly, you can say, on this doubt part.
Sure. So perfectly, Vidi, I'll also come back to your question. Yeah, Vidi, you had something to add on that skepticism towards Amrit Kal,
Yes, so this is like a time for India where we have to walk the talk. We have to also prove
right?
that what we are doing, whatever technological advancement we are doing, whatever infrastructure we are building, they are not going down the drain. Like a lot of it has happened in China, that they build a lot of things for investors, but it does not turn out the way they want, and then certain things go bad. So this is a time to walk the talk. So basically, this is what I understand uh, for Amritsar, and I guess if we have to prove something, there's always going to be skepticism, and with elections and all the bad things that happen, there will be skepticism, I guess.
Sure, Vidi. So that was a great question as such, and within that, I'll try to answer it in bits and pieces, and as we go along, and then I'll summarize what my answer to your question is. But right, I'm sure that many would really have that skepticism, and given the fact that I worked through so many cycles, these simplistic arguments that have cropped up are also because of the events that have taken place in the past. So, like for example, we keep on watching on the macroeconomy primarily because GFC happened, primarily because if something happens in the global world, we start kind of panicking out. And India as a country, as a market, has already shown in 2022, or maybe during that part where almost 3 lakh crores of selling really was kind of absorbed, right? So that entry fragility has already been shown. So this fear of FII selling is emanating from past where domestic institutions didn't have that money power. They were just 10 lakh crores. Today they are almost 37 lakh crores, or 20 lakh crores as far as equity is concerned in mutual fund, and maybe around similar number on the insurance side. So they have become a very large participants, which is what actually takes away the fear of FII selling as such. Also, what is happening on the global part is, since their economies are weakening, we are seeing that they have to maybe pull down their allocations on the global equity side, which is what is impacting the flows to India as well, and which is what we are seeing. So once India shows further anti-fragility, I am sure that they have to come back. They will come back. We are already seeing the allocations of global funds in terms of the global indices are or India's weightage to that is continuously going up, which is what will help flows to India. But until then, if fundamentally our economy is doing good, if corporates are doing good, definitely we will see flows coming back. Now, coming to other skepticism in terms of यार इलेक्शंस होता है, इलेक्शन के पहले सब ऑप्टिमिज्म रहता है, बाद में सब डूब जाता है एक तरह से, राइट? सो अगेन आई वुड rather try to put some thoughts behind it. See, 2014 mein what used to happen is we had this uh, earning class which was totally or maybe directly indirectly dependent on either foreign money or uh, financed by foreign money, right? I mean, take the case of IT sector, which was literally dependent on IT services. Banking indirectly was also related to money coming from abroad or moving within the country. We really didn't have a very strong domestic consumption plus manufacturing sector, and which is why post this spending that happened post GFC to the election period actually waned out, and where banks also got impacted. So at that point in time, while there was a very high optimism, things really didn't get implemented. Also, maybe because of there was a bigger work to be done at the bottom of the pyramid by the governments, and they really ignored the businesses at that point in time. But incrementally we all are seeing that that is not the case today. There is a lot of entrepreneurship that is going on at the bottom of the pyramid. There is a lot of confidence that we have as an Indians, and which is what will actually drive the economy. And the election, while there could be huge optimism, but the major part should be like, while even if the current government doesn't come, there is a high likelihood that people themselves have started walking on the growth path of doing business and things like that, and the bottom has also been fixed with the fact that we have GST in place, we have um, uh, maybe e-way bills in place, all the formalization is in place. Maybe it may take a slower path, but we still are on a positive path as such. Um, yes, there have been countries that have got impacted when they are extremely positive, and then things really don't turn out. So the other thing we should start kind of maybe imbibing in our investment philosophy is also the fact that in the past there used to be a very large impact of global events, primarily because the dependency of capital flows was there from the global markets. But incrementally, as you only shared, that FII selling is there, which which again has got absorbed. So the I won't say linkages are not there. I mean, there's no kind of decoupling. I mean, this is a term that was actually uh, it was born in 2008, where most of the people used it for India. It didn't work out, and today, since it didn't work out, most of our market participants think that it will never work out. But last, maybe post COVID, anti fragility is kind of proving that yes, we are at least there. The percentage of uh, decoupling is getting higher and higher, right? So now coming to the fact that yes, Amritkal, uh, how we can, or maybe what can really take us to this 3 trillion to 30 trillion journey in the next 25 years. I mean, let's maybe try to, or maybe if we really have to achieve that, what can we really learn from the countries that were maybe that have seen successes in the past, or the countries which are ahead of us, right? So take the case of US. I mean, US as a country is a very dominant economic power, where innovation, productivity, and living standards are world class. And why did they succeed? The main component of their success was having a market mindset, a entrepreneurial culture, a competitive and transparent legal system, uh, inclusive education, and innovative ecosystem. So while I am sharing this, please try to maybe attach this or see whether India as a country is adopting some part of it or not. If yes, then of course we are, maybe we can say we are somewhat on the right path to achieve the leadership, or achieve that top 3 position or top position. Because if we stretch a bit, if we grow by 8%, maybe we will even overtake US as the largest economy in the next 30 years. So it's just a stretch from 6%, which is what is assumed right now, to 8%. A small stretch of 2%. But if we put in right ingredients, we can become superpower in the next 30 years. And if we go back and try to learn from these successful countries, and as I shared, US has been successful because of the market economy, and the entrepreneurial culture which we are seeing as far as startup is concerned, a competitive private sector, a transparent legal system. Of course, this is one which is in to do, and maybe in the next 5 years, 10 years, we are likely to see see change as far as legal system is concerned. My wife is a lawyer in High Court, and she's already sharing with me quite a few changes that are happening, especially on the digital part and things like that. And maybe even incrementally, once the new government comes in place, we could see a huge transformation that could take place. And another maybe nugget I would really try to attach to it is, even Nandan Nilankani in his book has mentioned about judicial reforms with the help of technology. So US has US, one of the factors of US being successful has been transparent legal system, an inclusive education system. Again, we have to work on it. Even Nandan's book has mentioned a bit about inclusive education system. Innovative ecosystem. Again, some part of it is being seen, but yes, the journey is long. So that's about US. Let's try to understand how about China's success story. Which are the ingredients which led to China's success story? A large and disciplined labor workforce. It had a sustained investment rate. They did market reforms. The state capacity was centralized. Uh, it got integrated with global economy, and again there was a innovation and science and technology kind of a uh, catch up on that. So I mean, if we kind of just look at the kind of transformation that they have done in the lives of people. They have lifted almost 800 people out of poverty in the last 40 years, right? I'm sorry, almost 80 crore people. So that's a huge number, given the reforms that they have kind of put in. So, is there something to learn? Of course, we are seeing PLI investments. We are seeing kind of lot of uh, impetus being given to manufacturing. We as a country actually transformed from being an agrarian economy to almost a services economy, and most of the countries have transformed from being an agrarian economy to manufacturing economy, and then from manufacturing economy to a service economy. But given the opportunity that we saw, we have kind of grown fantastically on the services side with IT services in place, banking in place, and now we are maybe trying to fix that, or maybe given the opportunity that has come, we are likely to grow on the manufacturing side, and there are a lot of learnings from China. So both these countries, who have been leaders, who are the leaders, who have transformed themselves, there is a large learning from these guys, and thankfully we all as an Indians, it is quite available to all of us to learn, to learn from them, to gain from them, and then maneuver our thought process from them. Again, learnings from another two countries. I'll just share what has been the success story as far as Japan is concerned. They were disciplined, the investments were quite efficient. They were cooperative in terms of intergovernmental cooperation between business as well as government, which is the glimpses of that are kind of seen in Indian governments, Indian state governments. They were quite they had good strategic adoption to the global markets. And now, I mean, while they had a lost decade, but from 1950s to 1990s, they had a fantastic GDP growth rate of almost 7.5% for a very long period of 40 years. Similarly, again, Germany, there is again quite good amount of learning. They became fourth largest GDP country, primarily because of East and West Germany merging. And but within that, they have become leaders on the automotive side, chemical side. Their social economy is quite strong. Their support to SMEs is quite strong. So net, I would rather say is from these four countries we can learn a lot. Uh, ease of doing business is in place. More government and business policies are there. Stable political government environment is there. I mean, stable political environment is likely to be there. Well educated system. I mean, I mean, India is one of the largest English speaking countries of the globe as such. And within that, if we look at technology, maybe even technology educated engineers would be highest as far as India is concerned. Strategic education in strategic investments in education and infrastructure, which is happening. Maybe it could be at a faster pace, but yes, that is happening. So that's as far as past is concerned. But if we look at maybe the mega trends that are taking shape for the future, we discussed about demographic shift. There is urbanization that is taking place. Climate change is what we kind of spoke about. Uh, there is a shift in power from west to east. I mean, we have already seen the way our foreign minister is bashing any kind of pressure that is coming from the developed world. There is this rise of women. I mean, each of our families would definitely be seeing the power of women going up in families. I mean, last few months, I have been kind of traveling along with my family, and the kind of discussion that is taking place in the woman circle has now shifted from इसने ये पहना है उसने वो पहना है to कहाँ invest करना है, what are the opportunities to make money and things like that, or what kind of startups one is entering into, or what kind of leveling up opportunities are there. So the discussion amongst women have totally kind of transformed. Days of generational difference between a bahu and Sas Sasur has literally collapsed. So we are seeing these mega trends, which is what is going to shape the country. Uh, net three big drivers: the youth of this country, and the young nation status is what we are going to carry for a very long period of time. It's the relative attractiveness which matters. We are going to be relatively quite strong for a very long period of time. The digital public infrastructure that has come into place, and this is just a start or a glimpse. UPI, GST, e-way bill are just start of things. We are likely to see ONDC, we are likely to see account aggregator, we are likely to see health related infrastructure, we are likely to see further bureaucracy changes, we are likely to see single window clearance that is being talked about, we are likely to see contracts being kind of digitized, where you can buy real estate just like stocks, if not as easy, but at least far easier than what is being done today. You are going to see a legal system getting strengthened. So further, lot many things are yet to come. We are just seeing the tip of the iceberg that is being kind of being in place, right? And boss, the biggest thing was, भैया टेक्नोलॉजी है, यूथ है, लेकिन यही चीज हमारे अगेंस्ट भी वर्क कर सकती है, राइट? एज आई मीन VD mentioned के there have been cases in the past. Yes, there have been cases. There have been countries where there was a demographic dividend, right? They got impacted. I mean, countries like Egypt, countries like, I'm sure, I mean, I'm missing out on this. I'm not sure whether it is Venezuela or some South American country where they had a beautiful uh, demographic dividend, but the biggest problem was they were not skilled, right? But thankfully, at least so far, if we look, the Indians, young Indians are skilled, getting skilled, and the barriers to getting skilled are literally falling, right? So look at the strong startup ecosystem, right? Every youth actually wants to start a startup. This has got fueled up because we are a country where we are servicing a huge IT services demand of the globe, right? So वो ready जब ही हुआ, जब ये startup ecosystem जब भी ready हुआ, जब हमारे पास इतना technology backup था, right? That is what helped us to start startup ecosystem. Within that, the real lessons that the failed entrepreneurs or startup are going to learn is कि entrepreneurship होती क्या है. आज गांव गांव में, आई एम श्योर एवरीवन इज वाचिंग दिस शार्क टैंक ऑफ इंडिया, राइट? एंड एवरीवन इज वांटिंग टू स्टार्ट अ स्टार्टअप. So indirectly what is happening is this is seeding the desire to be an entrepreneur, right? Let's go 20-25 years back. जब कोई बंदा हिंदी बोलता था और इंग्लिश बोलता था, there was always a desire to speak English, right? Then came a era where यार मेरा बच्चा भी कॉलेज जाए, right? Education got a seeding. Today, most of the population, young population, is getting educated, right? Then people thought कि यार education is the way to getting job or getting nirvana, but they realized कि बस सिर्फ इससे काम नहीं चलेगा, and that's where they started maybe focusing on startups कि भैया एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप से काम चलेगा. And now this is what is seeding the germinating the seed of entrepreneurship, which is what is going to help countries like India. So a combination or trifecta of young population, digital infrastructure, and this kida of entrepreneurship, where risk taking becomes part of your DNA, is what is going to take India to new strides uh, in Amritkal, and that is why we believe that yes, India is really ripe for making biggest wealth for mankind in these upcoming 25 years. So I would stop here. I think this was a longish uh, pitching or maybe sharing of our thoughts. But nonetheless, this is what we believe, and that is what we have kind of shared.
No, no, brilliant, Sumit, and great perspective on comparison with different countries where we are well placed. So Sumit, like, I mean, the long mega trends or the long period, the thought process or the Amrit Kal stays in place, but there are few questions around, like, if somebody has some incremental money as on today and has a purview of 2 to 3 years, so what would be the pockets or maybe the sectors, although you touched upon previously also, so where you would be looking for opportunities specifically?
So yeah, good question. Again, as I mentioned, that banking sector definitely. So again, yeah, I think I haven't shared on this part. So while the long term path really remains quite good, uh, the ways of identifying stocks, the way we are going to invest in stocks are literally kind of changing every day, right? Every day, in terms of, or maybe again, the way India has moved from being a pre-COVID skeptic country to a post-COVID anti-fragile country. I think the way we look at companies have to further change. The way earlier we used to look at is what bottom up or top bottom as such. Just like K-shaped recovery that is taking place, I think even within sectors there is an amount of divergence is taking place. So while I may talk about a sector, but within the sector we need to really differentiate between the companies which are really investing in technology, investing in people who understand technology, retain the people who invest in technology, have managements who really understand how the future ecosystem is likely to develop. I think that is what is going to be a big differentiator. Uh, अगेन एंड जैसे पास्ट 3 साल में अगर पोस्ट कोविड बहुत अच्छा पैसा बन गया है, अगर तो वही स्टॉक्स में या वही इन्वेस्टमेंट थेसिस से पैसा नहीं बनने वाला है, ये चीजें देखनी पड़ेगी अपने को. सो नाउ लाइक अगर मैं सेक्टोरल चीजें लूं, एंड विद इन सेक्टर व्हाट आर द थिंग्स दैट वी नीड टू वॉच टू सी दिस डाइवर्जेंस, आई वुड शेयर दैट. एंड फर्दर कुछ कुछ सेक्टर्स या कुछ कुछ चीजें जहां पे आई हैव कंफर्ट, आई विल शेयर दैट एज सच. सो बैंकिंग फॉर दैट मैटर, राइट? बैंकिंग में ग्रोथ is where we are comfortable. I think most of the analysts, most of the market participants are saying the same thing. But within that, I would really add a differentiation of banks which are really deploying technology at the core, right? Take the case of example, not a recommendation, but uh, 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 just an example to demonstrate what I'm trying to say, versus many other large banks, right? They have not been able to put the technology piece well. ICICI Bank is, and technology is not just about बस ऐप दे दिया या नेविगेशन अच्छा कर दिया, यूआई यूएक्स अच्छा कर दिया. This bank, what they are doing is they are creating ecosystems, right? And which is what is going to give a very sustainable advantage to the bank. So ICICI Bank definitely, ICICI and the banks likes who are investing in technology, who understand technology. So ICICI Bank, Axis Bank, to some extent even IndusInd Bank, from a larger cap perspective. On the mid cap or small cap perspective, again, there are plays on maybe MFI side where bottom of the pyramid is really building up extremely well. we shared about UPI. Most of these guys never had access to credit. With their records getting into the banks, they are seeing a flow of money at very low rates or in an institutionalized manner. That is another area which we are positive on. Some of the auto ancillary companies could come back, especially which are kind of catering to electrification. Some part of their business have got impacted because of global issues, but I think that is once this volatility settles in, we could see businesses coming back. uh, while consumption that has a long runway, but the patterns of consumption are changing. Let me share a nugget how Gen Z is really consuming. In the past, what used to happen is a wealthy person was consuming X kind of a product. So let me take this opportunity to share an example of cigarette. Right? Excuse me for if somebody is not a smoker or really doesn't like this example, but I'm just sharing it from a consumer behavior perspective. So I met the dealer of ITC as such. What he was mentioning is these Gen Z, the spending patterns are totally changing as far as this generation is concerned. This guy would smoke a very premium cigarette as well as a very cheap cigarette. Unlike in the past, what used to happen is if a person has upgraded himself or herself to a better cigarette, they would never downgrade as such, right? Or vice versa. I mean, it was all a function of the earnings that particular person is having. So his identity, his or her identity was largely the income bracket or maybe the place he or she stays. But the Gen Z is totally open in terms of the product profile. So what used to happen is this guy would smoke a premium cigarette if he or she is with a group of people, right? If he or she is alone, he would take a downgraded version. Similarly, at the start of the month, there was a very high probability of smoking a higher priced product, and by the end of the month, the spending would go down to a downgraded product. So now, what happens from a company perspective? Let's think from a company perspective. Earlier, the focus of companies used to be, boss, I am targeting a urban customer or a consumer, and this is how I'm going to design the product. But today, that is not the case. The case is, boss, I need to have a premium product as well as a value product, and I need to ensure that it is being made available to the same consumer at the point and the way he wants to consume it. Right? Same things are happening even for, let's say, I mean, D2C products, right? People are ready to explore premium products one time. But if it is a daily product, what they are doing is they are going for a value stuff कि बॉस ये सस्ता मिल रहा है, इसमें अपना काम हो रहा है ना, हो गया करके, right? Same way, so these patches, right? जो K shaped recovery की हम बात कर रहे हैं, इसमें एक ऑटो एंसिलरी आ जाता है, और ऑटो में भी प्रीमियम ऑटो वाले सेगमेंट्स, इफ नॉट द मैन्युफैक्चरर्स, मे बी देर आर सम डीलर्स, which is where we are kind of focusing on. So consumption mein again, experiences is what is kind of taking place. So if not apparels, then are there any accessories companies which are, which is what I mean, I'm sure if we spend X amount on our clothing, which is pant and shirt or the basic clothing, we are rather spending much more, or we have many more of accessories in terms of maybe belts, in terms of travel gears, in terms of backpacks and things like that. So the value is getting created at that end as such. So those are the kind of companies that one can look at. And similarly, I mean, companies which are really growing fast and the managements are quite strong. These are bottom up ideas that we will have to take, but broader theme is, yes, banks, MFI, differentiated consumption where management is trying to get aligned. Some pockets of mid cap IT. Again, not necessarily because of IT, but maybe there are specific drivers in those companies, which is where we are asking our investors to invest. Uh, I think broadly this covers the way we are investing today or advising our clients to invest today. I mean, none of these are kind of a specific. I mean, if I've spoken about any of the companies, those are not specific recommendations, but they are just examples to show that how we can differentiate. We have to differentiate between the companies within the portfolios, right? Earlier with numbers it was quite visible, but incrementally it is going to be difficult, and we will have to understand the nitty-gritties of how the management is thinking.
Right, Sumit. So, Sumit, any views or thoughts around the chemical as a sector, although chemical and pharma sector, which are in itself heterogeneous sectors, you can say there are many companies and those companies are different from each other. But again, any view around these two sectors?
So again, an interesting kind of question, and within that, of course, in the last 5 years, that China plus one plus incrementally in the last 2 years, PLI is what is driving the growth in the sector. But last 1 year has been extremely difficult for many of the companies, and which is where the differentiation between specialty chemical and basic chemicals or bulk chemicals is kind of coming up. Now, I'm just trying to maybe um, uh, um, have some linkages between what managements really do during adversities, which is where I gave an example of maybe IT companies, which is what they faced during maybe either during 2000, where this uh, technical technology boom and bust was there, or during GFCs, right? So even they were growing at a very rapid pace during that particular point in time, and same was the case maybe pre-COVID as well as post-COVID, but pre this last 6 month era, right? So the growth was extremely strong, the margins were strong. I mean, the differentiation between specialty chemical and bulk chemical actually blurred. But going forward, I think we will have to really look at the companies which are creating differentiated offerings, not necessarily only on specialty chemicals, but within that, how they are able to solve their customer problems. It will be very company specific. Uh, we'll have to really go bottom up here and look at the micro things. Uh, as a sector, yes, they are likely to come back, but don't get trapped in something which is literally a commodity, and within that commodity, the management is literally waiting for बरसात टू हैपन, राइट? सो ऐसा होता है कि बस जब बरसात आती है तो सब नहाते हैं, बट जब चली जाती है तो लोग जस्ट वेट कर रहे होते हैं कि बरसात वापस आए. So some people look at alternative source of rain or water, but some people keep on waiting for that barsat. तो वैसा नहीं होना चाहिए. I'm talking from a perspective of the management waiting for business from their customers. I'm not necessarily talking from a perspective of stock price, right? So वो नहीं होना चाहिए. I expect मतलब अपॉर्चुनिटी खत्म हो गया है, इफ दैट इज द क्वेश्चन. आई डोंट थिंक सो द अपॉर्चुनिटी खत्म हो गया है. मे बी द वे ऑफ ग्रैबिंग द अपॉर्चुनिटी हैज चेंज्ड with this slowdown of last 6 months or 12 months as such. So that is what I would really like to kind of share. Within pharma, yes, yeah, pharma, I think, see, the another analogy during our हम लोग जो स्टॉक सिलेक्शन करते हैं, हम लोग ये बड़ा एनोलॉजी लगाने की कोशिश करते हैं. आई ऑलवेज आस्क एनालिस्ट कि बॉस, ये इंडस्ट्री कितना पुराना है, ठीक है? वो जितना पुराना होते जाता है ना, उसके उस बिजनेस के tricks and things like that are already in place. So जैसे रोटी कपड़ा और मकान is like one of the oldest form of business, right? अगर वैल्यू क्रिएशन होगा भी उसमें एज एन इन्वेस्टर फॉर यू एंड मी, तो जो उस पर्टिकुलर सेक्टर में नया एरिया इमर्ज हो रहा है वहां ही पैसा बनेगा. सो लाइक टेक्सटाइल में आपको स्पिनिंग मिल में कभी पैसा नहीं बनेगा, ठीक है, ओवर अ सस्टेन पीरियड ऑफ टाइम. वो बुक वैल्यू से नीचे जा रहा है और फिर उस बहुत सस्ते में मिल रहा है, वो एक अलग बात हो गई. बट 5 years 10 years पीरियड ऑफ टाइम में, प्राइमरली बिकॉज द एसेट टर्न्स आर नॉट रियली इन फेवर, राइट? सो अगर पैसा बनना है रोटी मतलब कपड़े वाले एरिया में, तो मे बी रिटेल में बनेगा, मे बी एक्सेसरीज ऑफ रिटेल में बनेगा, राइट? सेम वे मकान अगर देखना है तो मे बी कुछ और जैसे बिल्डिंग मटेरियल्स में बनेगा, राइट? अपोलो पाइप्स ने देखो कितना मतलब वैल्यू क्रिएट कर दिया बाय गेटिंग इटसेल्फ एक्सपोज टू रियल एस्टेट सेक्टर, राइट? But Makan, one is not sure. Of course, real estate stocks have done well, but over the cycle, there is a leveler for that particular thing. So same way, यहाँ पे अब pharma as a pharma export story, I think most of us know about it. Unless we add a nicheness to any of those, they would come back with those nicheness as such. So maybe a story which is around, let's say, if medical insurance coverage in India is going up, whether there are some companies which are highly exposed to Indian markets and doing well, and to some extent indirectly benefit because of this uh, um, health stuff coming up. And similarly, maybe like if average income of average GDP per capita is going up, they may keep on kind of spending on something in addition to rather than health, more on the wellness side. Like for example, maybe on dental, or matlab, until now nobody was focusing on their dental health. So is there anything on that end? Those kind of opportunities we'll have to find. These are a bit niche opportunities, which is what one has to kind of deep dive, understand, have comfort and conviction to invest in such kind of opportunities.
Sumit, do you also track the sugar sector and other cyclical sectors of the likes of which are ancillary to the infra space, be it cement or metals?
See, as a policy, we don't track much of these cyclical sectors, as of course, based on the discussion that we have had in the last 2 hours. Oh, okay, 2 hours. I'm sure you would have come, or anybody who is a participant. Generally, we don't use our time capital towards these cyclical companies, but maybe specific. The clean energy stuff is emerging, and maybe we have to work on it. I think it will not be prudent for me to really comment on it.
And last, the IT sector, right? Because it has if we talk about say after October 2021, right? Only
Mm.
select few companies have done the sector, maybe due to the demand in the Europe and US has seen decent correction. So do you think the sector broadly has bottomed out, or there could be more pain ensuing the sector like basis the cut down on the spends by the companies in the US and Europe, where these companies have most exposure to?
So interesting question, Prince. I think you missed adding one more question, and which is what many people would have is कि boss AI आ जाएगा तो क्या होगा इन कंपनियों का, right? I mean, and this is the biggest question that I get asked, primarily because of my association with this particular sector, as maybe working in that sector during 2000 to 2005, working in investor relations of an IT services company, tracking IT for a longest period of time, and now, of course, being a very very highly technologically and technology enthusiast. So now the question that is there, if AI comes, what happens to this IT services company? Uh, yeah, see what is happening on the technology side is, uh, if we take technology as a evolution to mankind, the large evolutions that have taken place in the last maybe 2000 years of history, uh, we have just like, it is one of the shortest and fastest that we have seen as far as evolution is concerned, because earlier evolutions would have been kind of agriculture evolution, printing, then industrial revolution and things like that, right? So ये जो technology है, मतलब 1980s is somewhere where this computer got kind of accepted and things like that, right? So 40 बरस ही हुए अभी तक, और उसमें the initial part was either accounting, basic calculations, scaling up, putting things in a record, uh, offshoring, कि भाई काम इधर चाहिए और कहीं और हो रहा है, मे बी अंडरस्टैंडिंग अनस्ट्रक्चर्ड डेटा, एंड लास्टली जो है वो एआई आ गया. तो अब तक एआई के पहले तक क्या हो रहा था, सब कुछ जो बाहर है ना वो सब चीजें की जा रही थी. अब जो है वो ह्यूमन साइकोलॉजी, ह्यूमन बिहेवियर, ह्यूमन एनएलपी, जो न्यूरो लिंग्विस्टिक रिलेशनशिप होते हैं, वो सारे चीज जो है वो एआई के साथ में एस्टेब्लिश होते जा रही है. सो विल दैट इम्पैक्ट आईटी सर्विसेज कंपनीज? रादर, over a period of time the systems are getting complex, right? Even during Y2K, while it was a very simplistic change of date from two digits to four digits, there was so much fear that they had to employ so many people, and that is where the Indian IT industry evolved. So systems are getting complex. Corporates, while uh, implement I mean, having new technology is becoming simpler, but at the same time it is becoming complex to implement it in their existing systems, right? So इनका धंधा खत्म तो नहीं होने वाला है. I think if that is the fear, we should take it away. Now coming to the second point, it was whether the budget cuts are going to impact, and the global slowdown is going to impact. As I shared, कि बॉस ये technology in overall human evolution is now the shortest and maybe the fastest. Same way, what has happened is, if we look at the basics of doing business, पहले क्या होता था? लैंड, लेबर, एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप, कैपिटल, ये चार चीजें चाहिए होती थी एक बिजनेस को सक्सेसफुल होने के लिए. नाउ टेक्नोलॉजी हैज गॉट एडेड इनटू इट. आपके धंधे में अगर टेक्नोलॉजी नहीं है तो भैया जयराम जी की, आप कितना ही कुछ कर लो, आप कुछ नहीं कर पाओगे. ठीक है? सो टेक्नोलॉजी इज एट द कोर of each and every businesses, and getting much more closer and corer to that nuclei of core of this particular. एक बार के लिए लैंड नहीं होएगा चलेगा, टेक्नोलॉजी की वजह से हो गया ना भैया, कोवर्किंग स्पेस बन गया है ना, फोन पे बात कर सकते हैं ना. सो लैंड नहीं भी होएगा तो भी चलेगा एक तरह से देखा जाए तो. लेबर, अब एआई आ जाएगा तो मे बी फर्दर लोअर लेबर कैन बी देयर एज सच. सो व्हाट आई मीन, टेक्नोलॉजी हैज टू बी देयर. सो धंधा बंद हो जाएगा अगेन इसकी वजह से, ग्लोबल स्लोडाउन की वजह से नहीं. इनफैक्ट जिनको धंधा चलाना है उनको तो और इन्वेस्ट करना पड़ेगा. तो यस, बजट्स आर लाइकली टू कम बैक. मे बी व्हाट इज हैपनिंग करंटली इज, in the past there used to be knee jerk reaction and used to be kind of, the projects used to be stopped, but these days what is happening is there is a very modular approach. तो अभी क्या हो रहा है, when I'm talking to the managements of these IT companies, what we are getting is कि ये modular होने की वजह से there are some of the projects which एकदम midway क्या बोलते हैं आपका, लग रहा है कि खत्म हो गया करके, while new projects are coming, new projects are getting awarded, but जो existing वाले हैं उसमें क्या बोलते हैं थोड़ा सा impact आ रहा है, which again I think it is also because the developed countries got impacted severely because of the rise in inflation as well as interest rates, and they have never seen this kind of rapid change. मतलब 12 months या 18 months में कुछ change हो गया है. बस they have seen low interest rates or falling interest rates for 10, 20, 30 years as such, right? So, and plus inflation is like the 10% kind of inflation was seen 40 years back, मतलब a generation back. So spending is likely to come back. अब पॉइंट ये आता है कि भैया करने का क्या करें, राइट? सो कमिंग टू योर पॉइंट के whether they have bottomed out or whether they are worth considering for investment or not. See, what has happened is अपॉर्चुनिटी खत्म नहीं हुआ है, अपॉर्चुनिटी अवेलेबल है. स्पेंड्स जो है वो जीरो नहीं हो जाएंगे या कंटिन्यूअसली फॉल नहीं होंगे बिकॉज सिस्टम्स आर गेटिंग कॉम्प्लेक्स. देयर इज लाइकली टू बी कम बैक ऑफ स्पेंड. बट फॉर यू एंड मी टू मेक मनी, maybe it is not necessarily the large caps where we will make money. We'll have to go down in terms of ladder of market caps and take exposure, and it could be specific ones. Some companies are really overvalued. I personally am kind of avoiding those thematic ones. uh, I'm going down the ladder, and if at all they are on further down on the ladder, I am ready to go, primarily because if that person or if that company is able to do business post COVID and still survive and have growth rates, that means उसके next 5-10 years तो set है boss. Why? Because post COVID भी अच्छा धंधा किया और जो स्लो डाउन हुआ उसमें बस्ट नहीं हो गया. That itself is a good indicator that this company will survive. We have seen it over the cycles. 2000 में कितनी सारी आईटी कंपनीज आई थी जो इन्फोसिस के जैसे ही होने की क्लेम कर रही थी. They vanished off. Same thing happened again in 2008. They vanished off. Rather, some of the companies, some of the very good companies are coming for listing now. They have been in the business last 20 years, but they are coming for listing now. Maybe they could be successful if they are able to bear the brunt that is taking place currently. तो जो भी जिसमें भी थोड़ा आपको दिख रहा है कि भैया मैनेजमेंट have started getting positive, even if it is a small company, have an exposure. At least that is the kind of strategy that we are applying for our portfolios on the IT side per se. So a very longish answer, Prince, to your short question.
So Sumit, we are like quite on time. You must be like tired speaking almost 2 hours, although it was very interesting listening. So we take one last question from Rohit and then one quick question I'll have after that. So Rohit, you can unmute and ask your question to Sumit.
Sure.
Rohit, you are still on mute. So Sumit, before that, selling a position is a very important concept, and when we sell, it often comes with a regret, right? Because
Correct.
either we sell too early or it's too late, right? So I mean,
Mhm.
what sell criteria you guys use at? I mean, as part of your framework, what are the deciding points where you cut your position?
Sure, sure. Very interesting question as such, no doubt. And I have written, my latest Economic Times article was on that same thing, when to sell as such. And these blogs are available on our website on tikonacapital.com/blog. Or for that matter, we keep on sharing it on our social media channels, which is LinkedIn, Twitter, and if it is a video, then of course on YouTube. Like we are going to share what Twitter Spaces that we are having currently. So coming to your question, like when do we sell, right? So first and foremost, any kind of red flag, we should sell. So let me take back to maybe Satyam days when I was an analyst on the IT side. Uh, uh, Prior to whatever happened, Satyam, if we kind of look at the opportunity, let me just share some angle to it. Now, a company which is at 45% discount to Infosys, it was available at 6p versus Infosys at 10.6p, and 30% was in cash, right? So, do you think anybody would have avoided it in December 2008? If I talk about like 6xp, यार 6xp में तो कौन सा स्टॉक मिलता है जो जो एक आईटी सेक्टर वाली कंपनी है, राइट? उसमें सोने पे सुहागा ये कि 30% इन मार्केट कैप, राइट? नाउ व्हाट वी डिड इज वी एनालाइज्ड इट. व्हाट वी सॉ इज कि बॉस उसका कैश ऑन यील्ड जो है वो 5 to 6% ही है versus competitors having 10 to 12%. So I met the management. We always had very frequent meetings, maybe every quarter, just like most of the investor conferences are there. I asked him कि बॉस आपका ऐसा क्यों है करके. So he just gave me a very loose answer and said कि next quarter में सब ठीक हो जाएगा करके. I took his word and maybe मैं बोला next quarter तक देखते हैं करके. नेक्स्ट क्वार्टर देखा कुछ करेक्ट नहीं हुआ. आई कॉल्ड हिम कि भाई क्या हुआ करके, एंड देन ही अगेन डॉज्ड मी. सो आई मीन दिस रियली गेव मी अ वेरी बैड स्मेल कि बॉस कुछ तो गड़बड़ है करके. तो डिस्पाइट दीज वैल्यूएशंस, डिस्पाइट दिस 30% ऑफ मार्केट कैप इन कैश, आई टोल्ड माय बॉस कि बॉस लेट अस नॉट गो ओवरबोर्ड इन दिस, एटलीस्ट इसको अंडरवेट करके रखो, ठीक है. Then came the day when this news broke out. I don't know whether you guys are aware about this or not. While you might have studied Satyam, what happened in Satyam was while the whole market as well as sector was kind of cracking, within that the Satyam had two episodes. In the first episode, they talked about they merging Satyam with the infrastructure arm as such. First event that happened, and the second event was the one where I mean, couple of weeks after this announcement, they had this announcement of maybe filing saying that okay, Mr. Raju had this announcement of fraud being kind of inculcated. So the day the merger was kind of announced, I just sat with my boss and said, "Boss, इसको zero कर दो करके." सो आई मीन अगर रेड फ्लैग दिखता है तो भैया नीचे जाओ. सेम वे इन वन ऑफ द funds we had India Bulls Housing Finance at that point in time. Again, a very attractive 25% ROE, growth 25 to 30%, just 2.5 times 1 year forward book, and a dividend yield of 4%. The day ILFS happened, we just kind of sold it. And even Satyam is down by at least 80% from the point that we sold, and even the this housing finance company is down by 90% from our exit price. So red flag अगर आया तो भैया कोई कुछ सोचना ही नहीं है, ठीक है. मिस्टेक भाई अभी क्या करना है वो देखो और चुपचाप चलते बनो. जितना मिल रहा है वो उल्टे के भगवान का प्रसाद है, ठीक है. तो फर्स्ट थिंग इज दैट. सेकंड, यस, if thesis is not really kind of moving the way we want it to move, um, we मतलब जैसे either if we are expecting a growth of 30%, it is really for a sustained period of time सिर्फ 10-15% ही आ रहा है तो दे दिया भैया. Or for that matter, if the narrative has changed from what the management has shared earlier, again we try to kind of exit. So ये हो गए fundamental reasons. Now on the valuation side, uh, while if I look at most of the stocks which I would have either left because of valuations or assuming that यार ये बहुत चल गया है, I mean these are regrets only. So here what policy we have kind of put in is it has to be at least 30-40% away from the valuations that we are thinking, not the target price but the valuations. Let's say if in a full blown blue sky scenario, if I'm assuming कि ये 30 से 35 पी ट्रेड कर सकता है, तो वो जब तक 50 पी के ऊपर नहीं दिखे तब तक एटलीस्ट हम लोग उसको बेचने का सोचते नहीं है, राइट. सो वी कंटिन्यू टू होल्ड. ऐसा भी होता है कि बहुत वो 30-35 पी पे से वापस 25 पे आ जाता है. दैट इज पार्ट एंड पार्सल ऑफ द गेम. right? You have to learn from it. It's just that it does everything that doesn't pan out the way you expected doesn't mean that you have done a mistake, right? Every call that you take or every action that you take, either it will give you earning or it will give you learning. So दोनों में से सिर्फ एल का फर्क है एक तरह से, right? So um, then if there is a better idea that crops up and हमको allocation के लिए जगह नहीं मिलती है, तो हम we think at very low conviction idea to be kind of going out. But generally, given the fact that हमने इतने filters लगाए होते हैं, generally speaking, हम ideas को जल्दी से निकालने का नहीं सोचते हैं. We try to ride the wave, and in that uh, view, it might happen that we miss out the peak or the top, but that's fine because ultimately we have to look at the complete portfolio rather than just a particular stock, right? And most of the time यही होता है कि if we have kind of booked based on valuations, uh, rather we regret saying that we sold it too early, right?
Right, Sumit. So we got Rakesh as a speaker. So Rakesh, you can quickly unmute and ask your question, please.
Yeah, hi Rakesh.
Is there any issue or they are not able to hear us? Rakesh, you there?
No, VD was able to ask, right?
Yeah, he was. Not sure. Last speaker also was unable to, or maybe they said.
Correct.
Anyways, Sumit, it was quite, exhaustive as well as interesting session in all aspects, and you holistically covered all the aspects of investing, and definitely the mega trends which are, going to be a reality down the line, and we all should remain invested, and we have every reason to be long on India. But again, as you say, the universe of companies is quite large, and you have to apply your filters and definitely due diligence, and one I think the network aspect I can tell you from my experience, right? Because I've been doing these post podcasts from last two and a half years, right? So with God's grace, people have been kind, and like you won't believe the kind of people they reach out with the set of questions, and knowledge sharing is great, and networking is one thing I cherish the most in the market. And again, as you rightly said, that is one component. The knowledge and the conviction thing is individual, and everybody has to do their hard work. And in case they feel like that they are not capable of doing it on their own, so definitely they should go to people who are capable and registered people, so that they can have access to their reports, or maybe give their money to manage them, because market is one place where it is not wise to make, though mistakes are evident and they are part and parcel of the journey. But again, we have to learn from those mistakes, and directly jumping in the market with big ticket size is not a wise decision, right? So anything on the concluding part, Sumit, you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thanks to you, thanks to people who have really patiently listened to what we have kind of shared. Uh, I'm grateful to you to invite me to this particular show, to be a part of your learning journey, and we all are kind of learners, no doubt about it. And the main remark that I would really put is, कि boss, we are definitely in an era where it is going to create the greatest wealth in the history of humankind. Uh, First, we are 17% of the Earth's population, 17-18% of the Earth's population. But in terms of GDP, we are just 3%. Now, the question that many people have is, कि boss, can India do it? Boss, India had done it in the past. India used to be 30%, 30% of the global GDP during the era of 1 AD to 1000 AD. 30%. सो बॉस, अभी तो हम पहले 3% से मे बी 6% भी चले गए, तो भी बहुत बड़ी बात है, बहुत बड़ी बात है, इन द सेंस दैट इज जस्ट वन जर्नी. 3% से हमको 17% जाना है. 17% से अगेन जो हमने पास्ट में किया है वो अचीव करने का चांसेस है, राइट? सो yes, we can do it. All the ingredients are there in place. The risks, maybe near term risk, which everybody flags. First is of course elections. Second is complacency, कि बहुत many times क्या होता है, हम complacent हो जाते हैं, वो नहीं होना चाहिए. Third is of course greed taking over. एक कॉम्प्लेसेंसी होती है और एक ग्रीड होता है. सो वी हैव टू इंश्योर दैट जस्ट लाइक एक मार्केट पार्टिसिपेंट बायस नहीं क्रिएट करना चाहिए. एज अ कंट्री, लेट्स स्टार्ट पार्टिसिपेटिंग इन कंट्रीज होलिस्टिक डेवलपमेंट. There is this generation which really avoids discussion on maybe politics and voting, but as a responsible citizen, I would rather request all of you to vote, राइट? अगर आपको आपके पोर्टफोलियो की सेफ्टी चाहिए तो प्लीज वोट. आई एम नॉट रियली बैगिंग फॉर अ पर्टिकुलर पार्टी, बट एटलीस्ट पार्टिसिपेट. डोंट लेट again, for lack of better word, I'm saying, not let a very less percentage of people of this country influence the country that you live into. सो अगर आपको इलेक्शंस रिस्क लग रहा है तो प्लीज गो एंड वोट. whosoever you decide to, I am not at all saying कि बस इसके लिए या उसके लिए, but decide which is good for your portfolio, good for your people, good for your next generation, good for making Amritkal a real Amritkal, and get the benefit out of it, boss. So that's my closing remark, and I will close it with one of the greatest quotes by Warren Buffett. So he always remained bullish on America, and that is why he is one of the greatest investors ever known to us until now, right? So he is always bullish on India. I think this is the time to stay always bullish in. I'm sorry, he was always bullish on America, and uh, that's the situation that we are into, and we should, or rather I am always bullish for the rest of my life on India, and that's how I could participate in Amritkal and make good wealth for the upcoming 2.5 3 decades that is left of my life.
Great, Sumit. Great note to end with. And today, the 41 people who were trapped in that cave have been rescued by the people. So, kudos to everyone who was involved and all the Indians and people abroad who are praying for their safety. So, this is indeed very good news, and
Wow, wow.
definitely
Thank you.
look forward to better India on all the aspect you touched upon. And there are reforms ongoing, and there are many reforms which we can definitely go look up to. So, with that note, I thank everybody. Those who joining for the first time, they can surely connect with our handles, and they can also subscribe to my YouTube channel where I upload all these interactions, because at times you are not able to listen to the conversation live. So definitely you can listen to those conversation maybe over weekend or at any point in time which is convenient to you. So thank you so much. I'll keep on coming with different set of financial market practitioners, and I will try to ensure that we focus more on the framework so that we emerge as a better investors. Thank you so much. Good night. Take care.
Thank you so much, Prince, and wish you all the best, and everyone all the best